Okay, so let's get started straight away so that you can see how much you could learn in a weekend. And of course, this video isn't a whole weekend long, so you'll just need to scale up. And I know that not all of you are complete beginners, so I've made a version of this for non-beginners as well. And if you want to, you can skip forward to the time frame that's about to come up on the screen, or you can stick with us for the extra practice. Welcome to ProSpanish. Okay, so we're going to split the weekend's learning into 4 parts. And in the first part, I'm going to show you just how many words you already know, even if you're a complete beginner. And we're going to use those to get a grip on pronunciation and to start speaking in full sentences straight away. So you're off to a flying start before you even have to engage your brain. Okay, so have a look at these. And remember, this is all scaled down for the video. So just imagine what it would be like or how much you would learn if this was scaled up for the whole weekend. So to start off with, just repeat aloud what I'm saying and repeat in your head if you're out and about in public. Un momento. Un taxi. Pasta. Un hotel. Un banco. Mi teléfono. Un doctor. Un problema. Agua. Café. Un restaurante. Un hospital. Okay, so the only 2 there which aren't instantly recognizable. Agua, water, and café, coffee. And I think even including those 2, if you look away from the screen now, I bet you will know what I'm saying if I say un doctor. Yeah, a doctor. What do you think it means if I say un momento, por favor? Un momento, por favor. Yeah, a moment, please. Or maybe we'd say, just one moment, please, just a minute. They're waiting to take your order and you're not quite ready. So you could say, un momento, por favor. Now the word for I need isn't exactly the same as in English, but it's still quite memorable. So I need in Spanish is necesito. And that's how it's pronounced in Latin America, necesito. And in Spain, European Spanish, that C is pronounced like a TH, a th. So necesito. So necesito or necesito. And I'll use both throughout this video. What do you think it means if I say necesito mi teléfono? Or necesito mi teléfono? Yeah, I need my phone. Okay, now it's your turn to make a sentence. How would you say, I need a taxi? Necesito un taxi. Necesito un taxi. How about, I need a bank? What would that be? Necesito un banco. Necesito un banco. What do you think it would mean if I said, no necesito un hotel? No necesito un hotel. Yeah, I don't need a hotel. So maybe you've already booked. So the negative, we just say no. No necesito or no necesito. How would you say, I don't need my phone? What would that be? No necesito mi teléfono. No necesito mi teléfono. Let's just focus for a minute on a restaurant. Un restaurante. You can see it's the same as in English, but there's an E on the end. And there are loads of English words that end in ANT and also ENT. And in Spanish, you just add the letter E. So we've got elegante, which is like, well, it's elegant, but we can also use it to say smart. So elegante, elegant or smart. Importante, important. Diferente, different. Urgente, urgent. And of course I could go on. and on. Un elefante, an elephant. Constante, constant, etc. Now let's do the same with a hospital. Un hospital. Un hospital, a hospital. And you can see the H is not pronounced in Spanish. There are many, many words in Spanish that end in AL, exactly the same as in English, with exactly the same spelling. So, natural, natural. Formal, formal. Total, total. And I could go on and on. Now you'll be getting a sense already of just how much Spanish you can learn in a weekend, and all of these techniques and many more are incorporated throughout my ProSpanish Levels 1 to 6 course. And let's build on this now with our second part. Remember, we've divided the weekend into 4, so this will be the second quarter. So looking at the language on the screen, we've got necesito or necesito, I need, we know that already, no problem. Let's add algo, algo, something. How would you say, I need something? Necesito algo, necesito algo. And again, remember that C in Latin America is pronounced like an S, and in Spain as a TH. So necesito algo. And do you remember those words that end like hospital, like natural, formal? How would you say, I need something natural? Necesito algo natural. Necesito algo natural. How about, I need something formal? Necesito algo formal. Necesito algo formal. Let's add the word for more. Más. Más. More. How would you say, I need more? So just 2 words. I need more. Necesito más. And how about, I need 2 more? So maybe they're ordering beers or wine or other drinks, and you need 2 more for the round. So 2, dos. So how would you say, I need 2 more? Necesito 2 más. Necesito 2 más. And we'll just take a quick pause here while I mention my very popular Levels 1 to 6 course. This takes the complete beginner or near beginner right up to a conversational level of Spanish in a series of very easy to follow steps. Now, all the lessons on this YouTube channel are supplementary, whereas the core Levels 1 to 6 is very much a step-by-step program delivered by me, the same teacher as all the other videos on this channel. And while the style is very similar to what you'll be used to from these videos on the channel, the key difference is that every lesson carefully builds on the previous lessons so that you can really feel that progress of going from little or no Spanish up to a level where you can confidently hold a conversation in Spanish. And that course download is available exclusively from prospanish.co.uk. What would it mean if I said, necesito uno más? Yeah, I need 1 more. How would you say, I need more water? Necesito más agua. Necesito más agua. How about, I need something more natural? What would that be? Necesito algo más natural. Necesito algo más natural. Can you remember the word for elegant or smart? Remember the little formula? Words that end in ANT or ENT, we just add the letter E. So elegant or smart was elegante. How would you say, I need something smarter, I need something more elegant? What would that be? Necesito algo más elegante. Necesito algo más elegante. Now, if we had the whole weekend, we'd be working a lot more vocabulary into these structures. For example, necesito más pasta. I need more pasta, for example. Next, if we want to say there is or there are, it's the same word, there is or there are, it's just I. Remember the letter H isn't pronounced, so it's just like the I in your head. I. What do you think this means? Hay un problema. Hay un problema. Yeah, there's a problem or there is a problem. And it could be a problem with something. Hay un problema con la pasta. There's a problem with the pasta. Hay un problema con la ducha. There's a problem with the shower. Hay un problema con el agua. Maybe you're not getting any hot water. Hay un problema con el agua. There's a problem with the water. How would you say there is more? Just two words, there's more. What would that be? Hay más. Hay más. And we saw before, when we wanted to say I don't need, no necesito, we just started with no. So how do you think you would say there isn't or there aren't? Yeah, no hay. No hay. So there isn't or there's no, whatever it might be. So for example, there's no more. There isn't more. What would that be? No hay más. No hay más. There's no more. In Spanish, we can turn this into a question just by changing the tone of our voice. We don't need to change any of the word order, just the tone of our voice. So if we want to say there's water, there is water, hay agua. And the question, is there water? ¿Hay agua? ¿Hay agua? How would you say, is there more? Is there more? In English, we might say, is there any more? Or there is some more. But in Spanish, they don't tend to use the any and some in that way. So we would just say, is there more? And that's the same as saying, is there any more? ¿Hay más? ¿Hay más? And it could be, is there more pasta? ¿Hay más pasta? ¿Hay más agua? How would you ask, is there a problem? ¿Hay un problema? ¿Hay un problema? And what do you think it means if I say, ¿hay más café? ¿Hay más café? Is there any more coffee? Or is there more coffee? Now, around here, or near here, por aquí is very useful, as you'll see now. So around here, or near here, por aquí, por aquí. So aquí is here, and the por bit is the around. So por aquí, around here. Maybe you're really hungry, and you're thinking to yourself, well, you're thinking, necesito pasta, or necesito pizza. And you ask someone, ¿hay restaurante por aquí? ¿Hay un restaurante por aquí? Is there a restaurant round here? Is there a restaurant round here? And given how specific I was about the food, maybe it would be, ¿hay un restaurante italiano por aquí? So there's an Italian restaurant around here. How would you ask, is there a bank around here? ¿Hay un banco por aquí? ¿Hay un banco por aquí? And of course that would also be, is there a bank nearby? How about, is there a hotel around here? What would that be? ¿Hay un hotel por aquí? ¿Hay un hotel por aquí? And what do you think this means? Necesito un doctor. ¿Hay uno por aquí? Necesito un doctor. ¿Hay uno por aquí? What do you think that means? Yeah, I need a doctor. Is there one around here? Or you might want to say, I need a bank. Is there one around here? Necesito un banco. ¿Hay uno por aquí? Necesito un banco. ¿Hay uno por aquí? Okay, and now on to the third phase, which would look like this. The middle column, I've only added 4 verbs. Of course, this would be scaled up for the weekend. So in the middle column, we've got comer, to eat, dormir, to sleep. Dormir is easy because it's like dormitory, like sleeping. So dormir, to sleep, estudiar, to study, and pagar, to pay. The only one you really have to think about is comer, to eat, because the others have got similarities with the English. So comer, dormir, estudiar, and pagar. How would you say to eat pasta? Comer pasta. Comer pasta. What do you think it means if I say dormir mucho? To sleep a lot. So mucho is like much. To sleep much. To sleep a lot. Now, looking at the first column, we already know necesito, I need. So straight away, how would you say I need to sleep? What would that be? Necesito dormir. Necesito dormir. And as we're short of time, I'm going to add in all the rest of this table so that we can practice it straight away. And of course, the pace is much less rushed and more step by step in my levels 1 to 6 course. So we've got necesito, we already know. Then prefiero. Prefiero is quite similar to prefer. So I prefer. Prefiero. And then we have quiero, I want, and voy a, I'm going to. Notice that the V is pronounced very much like an English B, voy a. So prefiero, quiero, and voy a. And it's a nice compact table, but it really packs a punch. So how would we say, I prefer to study? Actually, let's say I prefer to study Spanish. Prefiero estudiar español. Prefiero estudiar español. How about I want to sleep? Quiero dormir. Quiero dormir. And quiero, I want, can also be used for I would like. So if you are saying I want, like in a bar or restaurant context or any other context, it doesn't sound rude. It can be used as I would like. So thinking back to some previous stuff, how would you say, I want a taxi, I'd like a taxi? Quiero un taxi. Quiero un taxi. How would you say, and I don't know if you can remember the word for more, más. So how would you say, I want more? Quiero más. Quiero más. And you might want 2 more. How would you say, I want or I'd like 2 more? Quiero dos más. Quiero dos más. And I'm going to voy a. How would you say I'm going to pay? Voy a pagar. Voy a pagar. Let's add in our third column. So aquí, we know that because por aquí was around here. So aquí is here. Algo we also know as something. And another one that begins with A is ahora, now. Ahora is now. And then primero is first, which is quite easy. Primero, first. And pronto is soon, but also used as early. So pronto, soon, or early. So how would you say, using all three columns, I need to eat something? What would that be? Necesito comer algo. Necesito comer algo. I need to eat something. How about I want to sleep now? Quiero dormir ahora. Quiero dormir ahora. How about I'm going to study first? Voy a estudiar primero. Voy a estudiar primero. And it could be I'm going to study something first. Voy a estudiar algo primero. And how would you say, I prefer to pay now? Prefiero pagar ahora. Prefiero pagar ahora. What about I'm going to eat first? Voy a comer primero. Voy a comer primero. And how would you say, I need to eat soon? Necesito comer pronto. Necesito comer pronto. And if we had more time, I'd be introducing more verbs in the middle column so that you would have things like to buy, to speak, to see, to meet, all of which are very easy to learn. But we'll go straight on to our fourth part. And these are set phrases. So phrases that are best just learnt whole. And we can use them in conjunction with everything that we've studied. But they're quicker learnt as a phrase, rather than piecing them together. I've only added a few, but of course over a weekend that would be really scaled up. So let's have a look. ¿Dónde está el baño? ¿Dónde está el baño? Obviously very important. Where is the bathroom? ¿Dónde está el baño? And you could obviously add ¿Dónde está el baño? Por favor. Where's the bathroom, please? How would you say I need the bathroom? What would that be? I need the bathroom. Necesito el baño. Necesito el baño. And what would it mean if I said ¿Dónde está el taxi? ¿Dónde está el taxi? Where is the taxi? So how would you say, where is the hotel? ¿Dónde está el hotel? ¿Dónde está el hotel? Next, no entiendo. So very important, muy importante. No entiendo. I don't understand. No entiendo. Then we have I have lost. He perdido. He perdido. How would you say I've lost my phone? He perdido mi teléfono. He perdido mi teléfono. What does this mean? Hay un problema. He perdido mi pasaporte. Hay un problema. He perdido mi pasaporte. Yeah, there's a problem. I've lost my passport. And we also have me falta. Me falta un cuchillo. So you're at the table. I'm missing a knife. Un cuchillo, a knife. So me falta, I'm missing. What do you think it would mean if I said me falta mi teléfono? Me falta mi teléfono. I'm missing my phone. Or maybe somebody's in charge of organising the taxis to take people back from a party. And they want to say, I'm missing a taxi. I'm missing a taxi. What would that be? Me falta un taxi. Me falta un taxi. So you should have a real sense from this scaled down version of just how much Spanish you could learn in a weekend, even if you're a complete beginner. But better than cramming everything into a weekend, the levels 1 to 6 ProSpanish course can take you step by step at a much calmer pace with a lot of opportunities and techniques to make the language stick as you go, and that's available exclusively for download from prospanish.co.uk. Okay, and now on to the part of the video for non-beginners. So welcome back to those of you who skipped forward. As well as the language I'm going to present now, we'll also incorporate some of the stuff from the earlier beginner's lesson. Okay, so let's have a look. We're going to start off with ya no puedo. Ya no puedo. So we know that no puedo is I can't, and ya no puedo is I can't any more. So I can't do whatever anymore. What does it mean if I say ya no puedo salir contigo? I can't go out with you anymore. Ya no puedo salir contigo. And how about ya no puedo trabajar aquí? Ya no puedo trabajar aquí. I can't work here anymore. Okay, let's use some verbs from the earlier part of the lesson. How would you say, I can't study with you anymore? Ya no puedo estudiar contigo. Ya no puedo estudiar contigo. How about, I can't eat meat anymore? Ya no puedo comer carne. Ya no puedo comer carne. Maybe it's can't eat red meat anymore. Carne roja. Ya no puedo comer carne roja. Okay, next we have como antes. Como antes, like before. And that como, meaning like, can be used in lots of other ways. For example, como siempre, like always or as always. Okay, how would you say, I can't go out like before? No puedo salir como antes. No puedo salir como antes. But it would also be very common to say, I can't go out anymore like before. This would be maybe more common in Spanish than English. Ya no puedo salir como antes. Ya no puedo salir como antes. So, I can no longer go out like before. Next we have verte. Verte. So to see is ver. And we can just stick the te on the end to have verte, to see you. How would we just say simply, I can't see you? No puedo verte. No puedo verte. How about, I can't see you like before? No puedo verte como antes. No puedo verte como antes. How about, I can't see you anymore? Ya no puedo verte. Ya no puedo verte. And we did to pay earlier, pagar. How would you say, I can't pay you like before? No puedo pagarte como antes. So we've added the te on there in the same way as we did verte, to see you, to pay you, pagarte. No puedo pagarte como antes. And as I said before, it'd also be very common to say, ya no puedo pagarte como antes. I can no longer pay you like before, or I can't pay you anymore like before. Next is an incredibly useful expression, ojalá pudiera. Ojalá pudiera, I wish I could. And it could also be, if only I could. That word ojalá comes from Arabic. So, ojalá pudiera, I wish I could, or if only I could. How would you say, I wish I could see you? Ojalá pudiera verte. Ojalá pudiera verte. How about, I wish I could see you like before? Ojalá pudiera verte como antes. Ojalá pudiera verte como antes. How about, I wish I could pay you? Ojalá pudiera pagarte. Actually, let's add on, I wish I could pay you, but I can't anymore. Ojalá pudiera pagarte, pero ya no puedo. Ojalá pudiera pagarte, pero ya no puedo. How about, I wish I could study Italiano. What would that be then? Ojalá pudiera estudiar italiano. Ojalá pudiera estudiar italiano. And next we have solo quiero. Solo quiero. And we'll translate this as I just want, or I only want. So solo, a bit like solo. So solo quiero, I just want, or I only want. How would you say, I just want to see you? Solo quiero verte. Solo quiero verte. How about if you're in a shop and you want to say, I just want to look? To look is mirar, mirar. So how would you say, I just want to look? Solo quiero mirar. Solo quiero mirar. And how about, I just want to sleep? Solo quiero dormir. Solo quiero dormir. And what about if we apply the solo somewhere else? So how would you say, I can only, or I can just, whatever it might be? Solo puedo. So how about, I can only see you today? Solo puedo verte hoy. Solo puedo verte hoy. Okay, we'll put some of this in a table, as we did earlier with the third part of our weekend. But we'll start off with some new verbs. So looking at the middle column, recogerte. So the verb there is recoger. And we saw earlier we can just add te on the end for the you. So recogerte, to pick you up, to collect you. Aprovechar is to take advantage of, like to make the most of something. So aprovecharlo, to make the most of it, to take advantage of it. And then we have evitarlo. So evitar, to avoid, evitarlo, to avoid it. And have a look at the first column. So we've already covered this language. Ya no puedo, I can't anymore. Ojalá pudiera, I wish I could. Solo quiero, I just want, or I only want. And in our third column, como antes, as we've just seen, like before, as before. And a kind of tag that goes on a lot of sentences in Spanish and in English. Sabes, you know, you know. And in English it can be you know. It can also be you know what I mean. It could be right. So I can't do it anymore, you know. And at the end, por un tiempo. Por un tiempo, for a while, for a time. Un tiempo, a time. We'd say for a while. Okay, let's try some of these. How would you say, I wish I could avoid it, you know? Ojalá pudiera evitarlo, ¿sabes? Ojalá pudiera evitarlo, ¿sabes? How about, I just want to pick you up like before. Solo quiero recogerte como antes. Solo quiero recogerte como antes. How about, I just want to make the most of it for a while. Solo quiero aprovecharlo por un tiempo. Solo quiero aprovecharlo por un tiempo. And what about, I wish I could make the most of it, like before. Ojalá pudiera aprovecharlo como antes. And let's add on, ¿sabes? Ojalá pudiera aprovecharlo como antes, ¿sabes? How about, I can't pick you up anymore for a while. Ya no puedo recogerte por un tiempo. Ya no puedo recogerte por un tiempo. And listen to this one. Ya no puedo evitarlo. Ya no puedo evitarlo. And that could certainly mean I can't avoid it anymore. But it would also be the translation for I can't help it anymore. Ya no puedo evitarlo. I can't help it anymore. I just can't help it anymore. And that brings us to the end of this week's video. As mentioned earlier, if you're looking to become a confident and a competent speaker of Spanish, then head over to prospanish.co.uk to download the full Levels 1 to 6 course.